fantasy managers. Hello and welcome back to the FPL Addicts Game Week 1 Preview Show, Fantasy Premier League 2021 and 2022 season, powered by Esports Live and sponsored by Bonus Bank. It's amazing to be back here with the rest of the panel as the Premier League season is now just days away, days, hours. We're all counting it down. And a big thank you to everyone who's turned in for the 3 previous preview shows. A bit of housekeeping first before we start. You've got to make sure you're registered for our leagues. For the FPL Addicts mini leagues, our free mini league code is 1KSRYW. And if you want to see a little bit more competition, check out our paid mini at www.e-sportslivenow.com.au/FPL Addicts, which includes 5K worth of cash prizes and a total of 52 to be won, in fact, including Manager of the Week, Manager of the Month, and End of Season cash rewards. Plus, we've also launched our very first and our very own women's FPL mini. The code is below. Make sure any female managers out there join. It is completely free. And our FPL community Discord server is also buzzing at the minute. Everyone's in there, getting all the information, trying to sort their teams out, and details on how to join. All that sort of conversation is on the website as well. And we really need your assistance just finally before we start with the podcast. If you're listening out there and you're enjoying the podcast on Apple, just please take a moment to just rate and review so we can, reach many more fancy managers out there that need all of our help and a little bit of our advice. But a rate and a review would be greatly appreciated. Helps the algorithm and it will help us. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe, Instagram, follow, Twitter, follow, all that sort of stuff. But now that that's out of the way, it's time to introduce the panel and the guests for today. Of course, we've got the guru, Matt Day from FPL Addicts, Jack from Esports Live, Statman Dave, our man on the ground from the UK, Chris Reed, and my right-hand man in the commentary box, Oliver Walker-Peel. So we'll start with you, Ollie. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, it's been a pretty sad day for me as a Rovers fan. Woke up at 4:30 to see that Armstrong's been confirmed to Southampton. So one of the only 2 players who's kept our club relevant for the past few years is gone. So, obviously sad to see him go, but wish him well. And we also lost to Morecambe in the League Cup. So in terms of football, it's been a pretty bad day for me. But, happy that the Premier League's back and that we're back on these pods.
Yeah, absolutely. You got off to a good start on the weekend, though. Winning first game of the season against Swansea at home. Nice to see fans back in the stadium and everything.
Nothing, which was surprising. Obviously, winning games always helps, but the fans were decent. Glad to have them back, and hopefully, it can power us on to a decent season.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the guru, this is his bread and butter. This is what he loves. He's back on today with us in the new Tottenham shirt. It's I don't even know how you describe it. If you had to pick one word, Matt, in the English language, what would you use to describe that shirt?
Outrageous. Outrageous.
I think that's a pretty safe word to use there, mate. But are you happy to be back and everything? Spurs have had a pretty decent pre-season, and obviously FPL is, it's what you love, it's what you're good at. So are you excited for it to be back?
Yeah, can't wait, Elliot. Look, it's going to be good. A couple of days to go until the deadline. Team starting to make a few more changes this week, and yeah, can't wait. And obviously, with Spurs, it's been a good pre-season, but I won't be. Won't be too sort of have my feelings sort of known until we know about Harry Kane. I'm still a bit nervous, so see how we go there.
Yeah, we've all been watching that one with, a lot of keen eyes and, just waiting each day, checking the news outlets. But it seems to be same old each day, mate, all the rumours and the nonsense. So, it's going to be interesting, but we've got to see if anything amounts of it. And Statman Dave is back on today. It's I wasn't on last week, so I haven't spoken to you in a while, Dave. But are you doing well, mate?
Yeah, doing well. Been a busy few days for me at work, but I've managed to sneak in a few changes into the team to prepare for game week 1 and done a fair bit of prep for our little exciting draft on Friday night. So hopefully that'll keep me in good stead to pick a few good players on Friday.
It's a very good point. If you are listening out there, we've got our draft podcast, which will be at 9 p.m. on the 13th of August, the Friday, Melbourne time. And I think that would be 12 midday in England. Reedy, is that right in saying? If it's 9 here, it's 12 o'clock midday for you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So a lot to look forward to, obviously. Can't wait for that. Can't wait.
Good start from Reedy.
He's made too many transfers. His Wi-Fi can't handle it anymore, I don't think. Are you back, Reedy? We'll go
I
to
don't know,
you,
can
Jack.
you hear me? Is it broke on me? Is it?
We'll head to you, Jack. Sitting there in your new Man United shirt and sitting there excited for the season as well, mate.
Yeah, buzzing, mate. And listen, good to have you back, El. Obviously, after I've been filling in for you, but it's excited for the season, ready to go. Obviously, we've gone on lockdown again for the 7th time in Melbourne. Well, 6th time, 6.5, whatever week we're in now. So yeah, I was buzzing to go to the Man United Leeds game in the pub on Saturday. Going to go and watch it, but it looks like we're going to do a watch along now, I reckon. But yeah, excited to be back and ready to get going.
Absolutely class, mate. Obviously, lockdown means more time to sort your fancy teams out and all that. So it's a little blessing in disguise as Reedy just drops off there. We won't introduce him, so we'll just get right into it now. Then I guess, and if we can bring up my share screen, we can start discussing a little bit more in depth about the fixtures. Ollie, I'll just ask you just ever so quickly. The first sort of fixture that pops out to you here. If you had to list one, what's the one that's making you think, mate?
Oh, I'm gonna leave the so-called obvious one to Jack because obviously he's a Man United fan. So I'm gonna go with the only game before that, Brentford Arsenal. Obviously starts the season off with a flyer. Should be a decent game to be fair. Obviously Brentford will want to start life in the Premier League, 50th club to ever play in the Prem, so they want to start life off in a positive note. Obviously in front of their home fans, Brentford fans are usually decent, so I think they'll be looking forward to it. They've got like Survive Antony for Brentford. Want to make a point, and there's players for Arsenal that they've got a point to prove, so it should be a decent game.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. I think it's going to be, definitely one that a lot of, fantasy managers should be watching with, the Brentford assets. Everyone's a little bit apprehensive, if you will, at the moment, just not too sure if they should be going with them or not because, the style of football that they play pretty decent football. And, if they can tick this season in the Premier League, I know it's a big step up. They'll probably be a fairly decent side, but that's definitely a good first fixture to pick. But if we turn our attention to Spurs Man City, Guru, and I'm going to ask you about this one, do you think this is a game that, a lot of managers might be thinking, I don't want to get in that Spurs asset because I've got Man City in the first week and that sort of thing. Do you think that, the idea of Spurs playing Man City, the reigning champions, is sort of putting a few people off?
Yeah, I think it is. Look, they obviously blitzed the league last season, City, and no Harry Kane in the lineup for Spurs. So a lot of people will be looking at that game wanting to avoid it. But I think from a fantasy point of view, there could be goals. City have got a lot of injuries. There's going to be no De Bruyne, no Foden. From Spurs' point of view, Son's we've got a great record in that fixture. So I think there'll be goals, and it's definitely one to still consider. But I think a lot of people are put off.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if I just go with the third fixture, I think, out of the non sort of obvious ones, I think Watford Aston Villa is going to be quite a good one as well, because there's a lot of early, green in Watford's FDR rated on their fixtures. And, Villa have made a lot of new signings. People want to sort of see how they're going to get on. And, Danny Ings, Leon Bailey, Buendia, who I think is probably going to be injured for the first game, unfortunately. I saw he had an injury cloud on FPL, so I'm not too sure. But, Jack, do you think that Villa, do you think they're going to tick this season and hit the ground running for everyone's FPL teams?
Tough one, isn't it? I mean, they've brought in a couple of signings to replace one player, so I don't know where all these 3 new players are going to kind of fit in with the players that were in last year. But I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be interesting. There could be a fair few goals in that one. I mean, Villa's defence last year was pretty solid for the first half of the season, 3/4 of the season even. Watford don't really know much what they're going to bring. They're always an up and down, obviously yo-yo team, aren't they? So I think they've got a lot of players. Was it like 9 strikers they've got on there? I think for Watford or something. So I'm not too sure who was going to start. But Sarr was really impressive when he was last in the Prem. Be interested to see how he goes. And then obviously from Villa's perspective, I've got a couple of them assets in there. So the likes of Ings, I'd be keen to see if he's going to start off firing. He loves scoring goals, doesn't he? So can he lead a team and be the main man with Jack Grealish leaving now? It's all on him to do.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. They're sort of the main fixtures that I think it's not necessarily even the best fixtures. I think they're just the ones that us FPL managers sort of looking at a fair bit. With as you can hear, 2 of the promoted teams in there. People are sort of going to want to see how they're starting the season and how they sort of hit the ground running. So it'll definitely be interesting. But I think we've got you back now, Reedy. So we're gonna. How are you? Basically, how are you doing? We'll start with that. How are you?
Should we do a sound check first? Can you hear me?
You sound fine now, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, all good, all good. Yeah, I'm very good, mate. Thanks for checking in. It's good to see all the guys back on the pod, obviously, all raring to go. So yeah, I'm just kind of looking at my team, not making too many changes. I think I'm set now. So yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people say I'm set now a couple of days before, and they end up, you just go on and you're like, oh, just have a little look, just have a little check if I got this player in and that sort of thing. And I'm definitely a victim of that myself, and I know someone is trigger happy with their transfers as you last season will probably be the same. But if you're all sorted, mate, that's absolutely brilliant. If we talking about teams, if we bring up the share screens now, we'll start with you, Statman Dave, and you were mentioning before, you alluded towards, you've been checking out your team a little bit, just making sure that it's just getting all the right players in and making sure that it's going to be a good team to start the season, because obviously it was your debut season for FPL last season. So if you want to take us through your current team for game week 1, obviously there might be changes on the podcast next week when you find out that our teams have completely switched, but just run us through your team for the minute, mate.
Yeah, so made a few changes in the last few days. So I brought Target back in. I can't exactly remember who I took him off, but I made some moves to try and free up some cash to bring in an extra premium. So bought Target in. I bought Sanchez in as well as the backup keeper instead of Fabianski, just to get a little bit more cash. Obviously, Robertson's injury has sort of forced a change there. So I think, like a lot of people, I brought in Tsimikas to come in for him. So the premium that I've been able to bring in is Son. So at the moment he's sitting on the bench. He may not stay there, but so Son hopefully will give me a few more points in the midfield. I think my strikers are pretty much all the same, and all the rest are as is. But yeah, pretty happy with the way it's shaping up at the moment. I was pretty keen to get another premium in, which I've been able to do now.
Yeah, Matt Target's definitely an interesting one. Priced at 5 million this season. I saw the other day when I was sort of looking at my team myself. He was really good for Villa last season in terms of actual football and FPL wise. So do you think that he's going to be able to retain that for this season and keep up the form that he had?
Yeah, look, hopefully, I've just brought up his stats here at the moment. If you can see it, so he had 138 points, which is a pretty high amount for a defender, especially one that's a sort of not completely budget defender, but certainly a fairly cheap defender. And hopefully, if he can match those minutes, I think he had one of the most amount of minutes in the league, I think, last year. So hopefully that guarantees me a few sort of clean sheets and plenty of opportunities to score. So yeah, that's the idea behind Target being in there as a hopefully a fairly reliable defender who's going to have plenty of minutes throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ian Acho, senior man Kelechi up top that you've got there. Did you see that he scored a penalty the other day in the Community Shield against Man City? So he's already started his goal scoring form for the season. So does he have your faith for the start of the season then?
Look, he was one that I was sort of looking at this week, whether I was going to keep him or not, because I'm trying to think of the name. What's the other striker that they've signed? Is it Deeney or something?
Daka.
Sorry, Daka. Deeney's from Watford or whatever. So, so obviously I'll watch that with interest to see, I suppose, how much game time he's going to get with obviously Daka and Vardy and how they're going to fit them all in. But he's certainly there probably for now, and he'll probably stay there for week 1, and we'll see how much game time he gets and whether he stays there or not.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's a really nice team to start the season off. It's definitely a couple of players in there that I maybe need to have a little look at myself. But some really good ideas there, mate. And we'll move on to you now, Jack. And obviously, I saw your team last week on the pod as well. So has it changed too much since then?
Yeah, I've just kind of dabbled around. I think I've rotated every player in FPL into my team, back out again and back in. I'm something. I'm actually just waiting on this Lukaku. I need to have a look at him in my team and play around with a few assets around and see how that looks before making any final decisions. But I put Trent in today as well. I put Ben Rama in. I just don't know. My head's gone with it at the minute. I just need 48 hours just to see what else happens, and then I'll make some final decisions. But I mean, at the minute, I've gone from a 3-4-3, which was on last week. I had a Kelechi up top, and then I've kind of dropped him, moved some money around, brought Trent in at the back. I had Cancelo in there as well. I kind of want to bring him back in, if I'm honest. But because I think he's going to be nailed on for City. And then still got Ings and Tony up top. Salah and Fernandes in there, but I'm loving Greenwood. I feel like Greenwood has to be in my team as well, so I'm going to kind of keep that base of Greenwood, Fernandes, and Salah. Probably going to keep Ings, definitely keeping Shaw. Targets in there, a bit like Statman. He's got great stats. He was so good for me last year, so I'm kind of playing around with him. But Cancelo back in. Too much choice. Ed's gone. Move on to the next person.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up then. I was looking at your team now, mate, and it doesn't look like a bad side at all. So, I like the Greenwood shout. He's quite a different player that not too many people have gone with, but he's a cheap alternate to Bruno Fernandes. But you've obviously got him in your team as well. So, what's the sort of thought process behind that? The double Man United in midfield and then one at the back of Leeds. Do you think it's going to be an open game, lots of goals like it was last season?
Yeah, well, obviously last time we played them at home, didn't we beat them 6-2? There was, Leeds are going to come out and attack us. I don't think it'd be a 0-0 like it was at the start of last season. Definitely goals. I think Greenwood's going to be firing. Those first 5 of the 6 fixtures we've got will look like we're going to score goals. Cavani obviously being out until maybe game week 2. Bruno setting all them goals up. Greenwood on the end of him. Why not? And I think what I did have, I've just thought I did have a Jota in there as well, but having two Liverpool and 2 United assets straight away, I think it's a bit too risky. That's why I've kind of bottled that one. So that's why I dropped Jota. But Greenwood, I do fancy him in there. Big fan of his left and right foot, top finisher, and I think he's want to come out guns blazing.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a season to watch for him. If he can get firing, then definitely going to put himself right up there with, on course to be a pretty decent Premier League striker. He's shown it for the past season, and I just remember that the lockdown, the first lockdown after that when he came back and him and Martial were firing, Man United were playing some good football, so it'll definitely be a good one to watch from him. We'll move on to your team now, Ollie, and the man that is on the back of your shirt but on the front of your camera there, Armstrong, isn't quite in the game just yet, but I'll just ask you before you go through your team, is he one that you think you'll get in your team, no matter what he's priced at?
Well, just on that, he'll be priced at 6.5. I think he'll be the same as Ivan Toney. 29 goals last season in the League and Cup. I'm very tempted. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I could go Armstrong and have Elliott in midfield just for nostalgic purposes, but who knows? Probably not immediately, but I might do. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what's his name? Obafemi from Southampton, the other striker.
Jackie's on your bench, which I noticed. He's probably on his way to back the other way to Rovers. So I think £5 million. I think he's on the other way to Rovers. So hopefully we can get that one done. Yeah, or Armando Broa, I think, was the lad they signed from Chelsea for 5. He's £5 million. I think they signed him on loan maybe. So he's £5 million for Southampton. He'll probably get some game time, so you could go with him. Yeah,
and Blackburn going to retire the number 7 shirt for Armstrong. Is that the idea?
Don't be silly, mate. Don't be silly. No, we won't. We haven't. Well, maybe Obafemi gets it. Who knows? But I suppose that's for another day, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll stop talking about the Championship and we'll get back to FPL. The main idea for the podcast. So just take us through your team, mate.
Well, I've got a full squad, so it really depends on what I want to do. I've got 2 4 mil at the back with Amartey and Tsimikas. I've gone with 2 Newcastle players, or 2 presumable Newcastle players. Ellie, I'm relying on you for the second one with Willock. We all think that one's going to get over the line, 20 million. So if that happens, I'll keep him. If not, then there's no way. But happy with the balance. Mela Sarr's a bit of a risk, but who knows? 3 promoted players as well. It's an interesting one. There's a few differentials in there, but hoping it'll do the job for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of, as Jack's just said in the chat, a lot of Championship heroes in your squad so far. We definitely can see your love for the Championship. You've got Tony, you've got Pookie, you've got Sarr, even Harvey Barnes. If we go back a few seasons when he was with West Brom, he was a bit of a Championship hero as well. So, are you thinking that, you've seen a little bit of them last season and you think they're going to perform in the big leagues?
Well, I've just got that outside of knowledge, don't I? None of these lads care about the Championship. So
mate, you're getting relegated.
I've got the edge. Have a word, Jack. Have a word.
Absolute relegation battle, you mate. That championship team you've got.
Nah, mate. Not having it. Not from you.
I think it's definitely a different team, mate. But as you say, I've got to like it because you've got Jamal Lewis and Joe Willock, who if all goes well, don't want to jinx it. He's having his medical today. I've heard a lot of reports, so we'll probably hear something on that. Maybe in the morning when we wake up, Ollie, and 6 million. He's probably still considered what a lot of people in FPL would call an enabler. So, and he was firing last season, so he's definitely a good shout there, mate. And if he can keep doing the same thing again, then I'm sure a lot of fancy managers will be getting him in their team. But I want to ask you about Teemu Pukki just quickly, because last time he came up to the Premier League, I remember saying to you, I'm going to put Teemu Pukki in my team, and you went to me, don't do it, it's not worth it. And in the first month, he went and did what he did, and I'm never forgiven you for it. So is it going to be the reverse of that this time? I'm not going to have him in my team, and you're going to have him in yours.
When do you play Carrow Road, mate? Is the question I want to ask.
That's true, mate. Hat trick versus against us. So
he's got Premier League experience, so I'm banking on that. They've obviously signed Josh Sargent as well from Werder Bremen, but there's no way he's displacing Pukki. He's more just to have as a striker on my bench, because if you have a look at the options, like the cheap bench options, there's not many up front. So I wanted to just go with one who I think I could rotate maybe with Ivan Toney or with some other players potentially. If we go to 6.5, there's very few, maybe outside of Ivan Toney, who you can really go with. The options there, then they're not plentiful at all. So I decided to go Pukki, 6 million. I don't mind spending on a third striker. I wouldn't mind going 5 mil, but I don't think there's many options there, to be fair. So, look, I'm just going with it just to have a bit of bench security, have a stronger squad, and hopefully it serves me all right.
Yeah, and if Armstrong gets added into the game, and by the off chance he is 6 million to 5 million less than you're predicting, will Armstrong just slot right into your team, do you think?
I'll put him in over Pukki.
Yeah, good man.
Yeah.
Well, he was a good servant to your club.
Good underselling him, mate. Mate, he's one of the best strikers I've seen play for Rovers. Done a reverse Shearer, so he's gone from, went from Newcastle to Rovers to Southampton. Shearer went from Southampton to Rovers to Newcastle. So if he can produce anything like Shearer did, then we're on to one. But hopefully he does well in the Prem.
Yeah, fingers crossed for him, mate. And I know a lot of people that don't want to go with Che Adams will probably end up going with him. But it's a really, really nice team. A lot of different players in there. So definitely be interesting to see how you start with the season, mate. But we'll move on to Reedy now. And the man who said that his team is locked in pretty much. He's not going to make too many changes. So we'll hold him to that for the podcast next week. And I want one of you out there to count how many changes he will have made by now and when the game week actually starts. But just take us through your team, Reedy. I can see one Newcastle shirt already. So I'm already happy, mate. But take us through it.
Yeah, Elliot, you might be right on that one. I can't promise too much, but I am pretty settled on it. I've not really doubled up on many players from teams. There's only really, I think, from what I can see, Shaw and Fernandez from the same team in my starting XI. So I've tried to kind of spread it and build sort of. Well, basically push me funds into me starting XI. I want to avoid being wasteful with any of me cash that I've got there. So I've tried to pick a strong 9 or 10 and then make any changes based on fixtures. So as you can see, Sanchez in net, like most people. Now, Luca Digne is someone I put in recently, pretty much yesterday, I think. And basically, it's based on Sigurdsson being in jail. I mean, sorry, not being potentially selected. So we'll see on that. We'll see on that one whether Digne delivers. Wow. He'll be on a lot of the set pieces. So you've got Lewis Dunk as well. Speaks for itself. His bonus points that he racked up. He's a threat from set pieces. And Brighton potentially could be on for a clean sheet. I think Ollie will be happy if Burnley don't score. Luke Shaw. He's been in there from the beginning. Salah, same again. Mount. It's not really changed too much. The only two really is Digne and Harvey Barnes. I did mention him a while back, and I've gone back to him just because I think Leicester's first fixture, opening fixture against Wolves, it's a tasty one. I think Leicester, off the back of the Community Shield win against City, they'll be buzzing. So I've got him in there just because I fancy him to do a few bits. And then my front three, I should say, Antonio, St. Maximin, and I think I've made a change with Ings from Ollie Watkins last time. I think Ings has come in. He's on penalties. Whether he was at Southampton, whether he will be for Villa, hopefully that's the case. And yeah, boys, that's it really. Bench is kind of cheap and cheerful, if you like. A lot of players there that are guaranteed starts. So yeah, I like what I've done.
Yes, it's a really, really nice team. I've just managed to compose myself there from the from what you were saying before. But I want to just talk about your midfield mainly because that's where a lot of your money's been spent. A lot of people looking at Harvey Barnes. Do you think that he obviously was injured for a lot of last season, but he's scoring a lot of goals for Leicester. So do you think he's going to be back and to his best this season?
I'd like to think so. He's a definite starter for Leicester. So, if you look at the majority of me starting 11 there, they all start. They're all starters. And Harvey Barnes, of course, he's had a bit of time pre-season to get back to fitness. He's played a little bit in a couple of the friendlies. So I'm hoping he's raring to go for that first game against a Wolves team who've had to change manager. They've lost their keeper, who was a top keeper. And they've not really made many moves in the transfer activity, Wolves. So we'll see on that one, but I expect Leicester to sort of go all out, guns blazing, and Barnes, I think, might get a goal or an assist.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the double Brighton that you've got, Lewis Dunk and Robert Sanchez. Do you think that Brighton are going to be, defensively solid this season?
Yeah, I would say so. Potter's got him in a good position in terms of how they play the style of football. Last season was really good. They just struggled a little bit in terms of scoring the goals. The football they played was actually brilliant. But I'd expect them to keep a clean sheet. It does worry me a little bit. A lot of people have gone with Sanchez. If Burnley score early on, that's the clean sheet gone straight away. But yeah, I can see Brighton doing really well in terms of defensive.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, and it's a really, really nice team. There's a lot of balance there. As you said, you haven't doubled up with too many teams, so it's a really, really nice team. And now you've got about a week on me to catch up on. So if we bring up my share screen, I didn't show my team last week, and it's very different to what it was sitting at last week as well. So if we move on to my squad now, I've got the same in goal as you, Reed. I've gone with Sanchez, and then I've gone with Cresswell, Digne, Tsimikas, and Alexander-Arnold in the defence. I think, obviously the two Liverpool assets, everyone's sort of got at least one Liverpool defender at the minute, I think. And then I'm hoping that, they can manage to keep a clean sheet against the newly promoted Norwich, which a lot of people will be hoping for. Cresswell was one that did so well for me last season that I think it'd be rude to not sort of start with him in my team. Set pieces for him and Digne both are a massive, factor for a lot of people. Corners, free kicks, they're both on them. So I'm expecting sort of big things from them. If we move on to the midfield, Havertz is one that I've stuck with. I'm awaiting, as someone was talking about before with Lukaku, I think it was you, Jack. If Lukaku signs for Chelsea, Havertz maybe won't be playing in that number 9 role. Most likely not. Maybe he will for the first game, but probably be moved out to the right, a lot of people are saying. So it'll be interesting. So I'm going to have to watch that one, because if he's not playing as a 9, he's probably not going to be getting the same numbers that he was getting towards the end of last season. So it'll be an interesting one. Salah and Bruno Fernandes pretty much speak for themselves. I know a lot of people are going Bruno over Bruno. So it's going to be interesting with that. But yeah, he's in my team. I think, penalties. He didn't have the best European. He wasn't the best at the Euros, but he's gonna be firing in the Premier League again this season, picking up his numbers that he was getting last season. And then Wilson, Ings, and Antonio up top. Surprised no one else has sort of gone with Callum Wilson. I know, Matt, you're not showing your team today, but you've sort of said that he's a fairly decent player to have in your team because of how much he's involved in all of Newcastle's, albeit few. When we score, he's usually involved with a lot of them. So I think he's one that people should be looking at again. And then Antonio sort of speaks for himself. West Ham were really decent last season. He again, found himself injured for a fair bit, so I'm expecting him to be back. And then Ings, it's the toss-up between him and Watkins. I think Ings will play. And as Reedy said, he's probably, a shout to be on penalties if he can take them off El Ghazi. But it's going to be an interesting one. But that's pretty much my team. It's good to see. I'll just point out first of all that it's a lot of different different teams. Towards the start of last season, a lot of people had the double Spurs, and I remember the double Southampton defence and keeper because of how good their fixtures were. But I think this season it's a bigger variety of sort of teams. Have you sort of noticed that as well, Matt?
Yeah, and obviously these teams that we've shown today have been all quite different. So I've certainly noticed that. There's a bit of a mix with kind of who to pick with these Liverpool defenders. Do I have Trent and Samikis? Or do you just have one? Do I put people sort of deciding, do they put a Chelsea player in, knowing that they've then got a couple of tough games, and that type of thing. So yeah, definitely seeing some sort of varied teams and varied players in each position. Yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant. And, obviously you're not showing your team for us today, but you've got, a couple that I think people want you to be showing and from Twitter and stuff like that. So if you just bring up the share screen for yourself, Matt, we can, I'll hand over to you and you can take it away, mate.
Perfect. Thanks, Elliot. So we'll start with, one of our members from our Discord communities in the mini league. It's Enes Gundogan. Look, I when he did first come to the Discord, I thought it was actually Gundogan. So it's a nice little play on words with his name. So we had a bit of a laugh about that in the Discord. But he wanted to get his team rated, and as you can see, it's quite a good side. He's got Sanchez in there, Wilson, Calvert-Lewin, Fernandez, Salah. So a few of the usual sort of suspects, and we wanted a bit of feedback from the FPL community on Twitter, and we had a couple of responses. Interesting pick with Bowen and Amati, but likes it. That's from FPL Bod. Definitely not something you see in every team. Looking at that, I think Bowen is a really good shout, and Amati as well is another one of those sort of 4 million range players that you're going to get a start from early on. And then we had FPL Atlas come back, solid overall team. Wilson is injured apparently. I think this was about 3 or 4 days ago, Elliot, and he looks fit now, doesn't he, Wilson?
Yeah, he played for us against Norwich in the week, mate, so he should be, absolutely ready to go. Him and Sam Maximan, there was a little bit of a little worry, but they both managed to get minutes in. Wilson started, Saint came on after 45 minutes, so I think they're going to be ready to go. Yeah,
so I think Wilson's still a good pick there that he's got, and then, also speaks about Bowen being a decent shout. And then he kind of goes on about sort of Leeds for tough starting fixtures because he's got Rafinha and Ayling on his bench, but personally, I think having those Leeds assets ready is actually quite a good move. He's got a pretty big squad here, and you're going to want those Leeds players in at around, so I think it's game week 3 or 4. Their fixtures pick up, so overall he's got quite a good sort of squad there, and I think the comments back are quite nice, and I'd say that's a pretty good team from Enes Gundogan. I'm gonna call him.
Just call him Gundogan.
Call him Gundogan. I think he's Gundogan. I think he's happy with that now. And we'll move on now. We've got Spider King's team. He's from our Discord as well. We only got the one comment back actually saying is Spider King a Leicester supporter? Obviously, he's got Harvey Barnes, he's got Tielemans, he's got Daka as his captain, which I thought was quite an interesting one. So this team here really caught my eye because he's got some different ones in there. With Van Dijk, who I've not seen in barely any teams. Kieran Cherney, I think he's a very good option this season. Not seen him in many teams. Cancelo, Ziyech. He's got Kane on the bench. Reece James. So yeah, this is a really sort of differential type of team, and that could if that goes the right way, he'll smash it in his mini leagues. And then the last team we'll look at, we've got one from Ollie's probably not going to like the team name so much, or the member. It's Petty Claret. He's our Burnley fan in the group, so he's from our Discord too. I don't think Ollie's going to like this team as much.
This is the best one. This is the best one that I saw.
I had a chat with him. He seems like an all right lad, despite the fact he supports a dreadful team. But it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got an interesting.
Someone's got to be a Burnley fan.
Yeah, he's got an interesting side. He's got Matt Ritchie and Jeff Hendrick in there, which is a couple of interesting options from Newcastle. Tarkowski and Ben Mee, who are both FPL veterans, so a couple of good moves. Havertz, Sterling is a very interesting one as well this year. So yeah, we've got some comments. Obviously, Elliot Craig yourself come back 10 out of 10 for Jeff Hendrick alone. A comment from Donald Breslin. You've got a team full of differentials, so you'll either start way in front first few games or way behind. And the only pick that he agrees with is Havertz, with Chelsea having terrible fixtures until game week 7, which is quite an interesting comment. I think Chelsea are quite a fixture-proof side personally, but they've got Ollie comes in, contains Burnley players, so 0 out of 10 in his opinion. But on a serious note, playing FPL without any bias, Jeff Hendrick would probably be his only issue and not a bad team. And then Elliot, again, sort of talking about Jeff Hendrick being the best player in his squad. So, but I definitely agree with the consensus that, it's a team full of differentials, similar to the last one from Spider King. So, it's either going to go one or two ways where, this could really shoot up the mini leagues if they do well. But yeah, very different, lots of different picks. So yeah, that's the last one of the teams that we got rated this week.
Yeah, and keep tweeting at the Guru, asking him these sorts of things. His Twitter's on the screen there, as you can see. FPL_addicts. So we've just got a question that's come in here, and Fadzili has asked Bertrand or Pereira. I'll ask you, Guru. I've seen a lot of people with Ryan Bertrand in their team, and I think a lot of Leicester fans are pretty confident that he is going to start. But do you think him or Ricardo Pereira?
I'd be saying Pereira. I think he's gone down in price this year, 5.5 million. Pereira, I think we spoke about him in our last pod as well, and he's going to start most games. I think Bertrand's just kind of there, as that rotation option whilst there's injuries to James Justin. Castagna as well has got an injury, so I think if you're going to pick between the two, I'd spend the extra 0.5, and I'd be going Pereira. If you're looking at Pereira from 2 seasons ago as well, when he was fully fit and he was 6 million, he was a great asset to have. So now you can get him for 5.5. I think great option. I'd be going Pereira every time.
Yeah, he was absolutely firing. And then just to finish off this section, we'll just mention ever so quickly that you've actually got a shirt giveaway going on at the minute, Guru. It's on screen now. If you can't see it, head over to the Guru's Twitter. It looks absolutely awesome, and you can get yourself involved. It doesn't cost anything. You just got to retweet the tweet and follow a couple of people, and you'll be in there to enter. As you can see, follow his account, retweet it, and enter into our free mini, which I mentioned the code before. So you've got to get yourself involved. It looks absolutely awesome, and it's really nice to see a giveaway, Guru. It's the first of many, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully. Look, this is. It's something we want to do throughout the season, for our members and our community. And this is a great giveaway. Like, just look at that shirt. Like, I could wear that nightclub in. That's how good it is.
Oh God, yeah, we'll take you up on that one. We'll have to see the Guru out clubbing in his very own FPL Addicts FPL top. But that wraps up our draft section. Can't get over the new transition. It's absolutely awesome. Every time I listen to it, it's absolutely brilliant. But we'll move on to the. It is, mate. It is. Guru's going to be whipping out his FPL top in a minute and be heading out to the town at that rate. But we'll move on to your section now, Matt, the Guru section. It's the information part of the podcast, and we'll start. We've just got a couple of podcast discussion questions from a few of our Discord members. So we start with Dodie, and I'll ask you, Guru, and then we can open it up to the panel as well. But he says, how to balance getting the must-have premium players by selecting the right enablers to be able to afford 3 premiums, for example. Do you want to first of all explain to the viewers out there that majority of them probably don't know what an enabler is, and I didn't until last night as well, so there's absolutely no shame in that. But do you want to just explain what it is?
Yeah, so an enabler in FPL terms is basically someone that's a low price that you can put into your side that's going to enable you to have more expensive players that are then going to perform better. So an example this season would be in your midfield, you've got Dallas from Leeds. He's 5.5 million. So there you go. You've got someone that's going to start every week. He's going to probably get quite a few points, but he's cheap. So then he's going to enable you to have these premium assets, whether it be your Salahs, Fernandez's, Lukaku's, whoever it may be. So that's basically what an enabler is. So pretty cool term, and I think it's one that's been around in FPL for a while. So look out for that one.
Yes. If we go back to
he's still there. He's still there.
The question now that we know what an enabler actually will.
I think Elliot's probably
back?
going to ask the question, which we'll we'll discuss with the wider group as well. But from my sort of point of view, must have premium players. So sort of balancing them, I think, you get your Salahs and in your Fernandes. Fernandes is in, which is balancing those sort of must-haves. And then to select those right enablers for those premiums, you've got to make sure you pick an enabler that's going to sort of play every week as well, in my opinion. I don't think there's no don't want to get like a 4.5, Obafemi, like we spoke about before, that you put in and then he's gone, or he's not going to get minutes. So if you're going to get the right enablers, and you've got to be getting in like your Dallases that are going to play, your Emil Smith-Rowes and that type of thing. Because when the premiums don't perform and you've kind of got those 3 premiums in there, you're still going to sort of want to get your points back off those enablers as well. But obviously this one we'd like to take to the wider group as well. So it'd be good to get your thoughts as well, boys.
Elliot, can you help out on that one, mate?
I think I'm back now. So I think as the guru said, it's just making sure that you're not just getting the 4.5 sort of million players, and you're getting in sort of mid-range. We spoke a lot about Dallas and stuff like that. The people that could come out with a decent score and actually get you some points in the end, because you don't just want to be starting like a Basuma or a Billy Gilmore from Norwich or something like that, because they're most likely, they'll go out now and get like 20 pointers in the first game of the season, but they're most likely going to just get you 2 points every week, and that's not what you want. Even if it means that you can get that extra premium asset, sometimes it is worth it going with that enabler, as we so call them, and then sort of downgrading just a little bit. But as you say, I think you don't want too many of them in your team. You want to be able to get I'd say 3 of the big hitters. I'm a big fan of Salah and Fernandes, so I've made sure that no matter what, they're in my side. So I'd sort of build my team around that. So I think a good sort of strategy for it, definitely for the start of the season, is sort of just pick the players that you definitely want. So for me, as I said, Salah, Bruno and Trent were the ones that were nailed on for me, and then I sort of just built my team around that and sort of just saw what I could do. But it's a very good question, and obviously an enabler isn't something that I really knew what it was until now. I thought they were just called budget players, so we'll have to start using that term a little bit more broadly. But what's your sort of thoughts on this, Reedy? I know you've played around with your team a lot. Probably can consider Sam Maximan as an enabler, so you've probably got a couple in your team as well. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question, and yeah, I've done that. I've pretty much done that. Like I said before, pushing me funds into me starting 11, and basically you select 9 or 10, regular starters for your 11, and you fill the remaining slots with cut price players who can be swapped in and out according to the fixtures. You can consider rotating your defenders. Obviously, a lot of people have gone in with a couple of 5.5 mil defenders, guaranteed starters, defenders that are going to be on set pieces. And then you've got your low price defenders, your 4.5 mils, who are starters but are easy to kind of rotate. And these enablers, like your Dallases, like your St. Maximans, that they're the sort of, they could be the make or break of this FPL season, really, because these premium assets are so high. It's difficult if you do take a premium asset out to potentially get them back in. So, you have got to be wary of these sort of things. And I think having these low price defenders and these enablers as well is definitely going to benefit you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really, really fair point. I saw a comparison the other day towards last season, and the amount of players that you could have had from this season and kept it inside 100 million compared to their prices last season. The prices this year are just absolutely ridiculous. So it's definitely a lot more strategy this season. I agree with you, Reedy. So it'll definitely be interesting. But we'll move on to the second question now, and I think this one is just aimed for you, Matt, and the one after. It's from David from Bonus Bank, and he asks if Salah and Mane as a double up is viable, and is a back 4 an option, especially if you have 4 attacking fullbacks starting?
Yeah, look, I think the Salah and Mane double up at this stage is probably not viable. Salah's 12.5. Mane is about 12 million himself. So, I think these early days, you need Bruno, Salah, in terms of the premiums. And then you've got to keep one eye out and potentially looking at getting Harry Kane in there, or Lukaku. So I probably would say, having that double up is probably not quite viable right now. But, that obviously depends on how Liverpool's form goes. But right now, I'd say no. And then in terms of a back 4, definitely something that you can have, especially if you've got 4 fullbacks. Cresswell, Digne, Trent, Luke Shaw. You've got 4 players that attack, get assists, and get goals. So yeah, back 4 is definitely viable, and even a back 5, I think, this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good point for that question. A lot of people going with the back 4 to start the season, I think. But move on to the third and final question now. It's from JC99_. And I'll just make the point again. These questions are from our Discord. We'll be asking, if you're in on the podcast discussion channel, and you can pop your questions in there. And if we pick it, we'll answer it on the podcast as we're doing so now. But he says teams with the best start to the season. He reckons Leicester and Liverpool with 4 out of 6 green fixtures. That's the first question. And then he says, what's the best time to use your 2 wild cards during the season? So I'll leave that one for you again, Matt.
Yeah, cool. So with the wild cards, one, I'd probably say it really just depends on how your team's performing early on. So there's various strategies with wild cards. But I usually say with the first one, it's kind of more of a refresh. So you want to refresh your original team. So I'd say after the international break's quite a common one. And then, the second wild card, I'd probably say the double game week's probably the best one to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if we'll get started with the questions are out of the way now, and we'll get on to the guru section, the bit that even myself, I'm sitting here tentatively just waiting to hear we'll start with the differentials, mate. So differentials, for people that don't know, as we classify them, and a lot of people do, is players that are under the ownership of 10%. So who do you think are the best differentials for game week 1, mate?
Yeah, look, I've got a few on the list today. So the first one, I'm going to go with Matt Target, who we mentioned I think he's in Statman's team. So we're going to go with Watford at home. So he's 9.9% owned, 138 points last season. I think he's a great option for Villa in that defence. Gets forward with goals and assists. A second differential, I'm going to go with Jimenez against Leicester. Obviously, really spoke about Wolves and not being too sure, but I think Leicester have got a lot of injuries in their defence this week. It's a bit makeshift. Jimenez is back. He scored in pre-season. He's 3.9% owned, and I think he'd really want to watch this year when he gets the starts back. He's a real strong FPL player. Very low ownership. And then another differential at 6.8%. Again, we've spoke about him tonight. Callum Wilson at home to West Ham. 7.5 million, and that's a team, I believe, Elliot, you can correct me, but it's the team he scored most of his goals against, or likes to score a lot of goals against.
Absolutely, mate. He's got a positive goal to game record against West Ham, so it's his favourite team to play against. He said that last season on his debut for Newcastle. He said it's just a team that he loves to play against. So fingers crossed he's going to be doing more of the same.
Let's hope so. And then with my last one, I've gone with Sadio Mane. 4.3% away to Norwich. I think it's a good alternative to Salah. I wouldn't have him with Salah, but I think if it's someone you want to do completely different, you don't want to own Salah, then 4.3% ownership away at Norwich is extremely low. So that's my differentials.
Yeah, some really good picks there. And I think a lot of people out there are really hoping that Jimenez can, get back his form this season, not just for fantasy, but for him as a player as well. Obviously he had that horrific injury last season. But we'll move on to the brand new enabler section. So we've got that for this season now. He's going to pick his favourite enabler for game week 1 to take it away.
It's got to be Tsimikas from Liverpool, I think, 4 million, expecting him to start. And yeah, that's a huge enabler for this game week, and it's probably going to be the same enabler for at least the first 3 or 4 game weeks, I expect.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be finding his way into a lot of people's teams. He's not one that a lot of people would have thought they'd be having in their teams for game week 1, but injuries find their way, and a lot of people have gone with him. So we'll move on to your captain picks now, and we'll start with just your normal captain picks, and then we'll go to your curveball. So take away your captain picks, mate.
It's got to be Bruno against Leeds. I think last season he did get a couple of pens in that game, and I'm expecting similar numbers from him in this fixture. Being at a derby against Leeds, quite fiery. There's going to be fans back in the stadium, so yeah, he's definitely up there in the captains for me. And then Salah kind of speaks for itself. And then moving on with Havertz, I'm going to put in there. I'm not too sure, but I think we've got to have a Chelsea player in there with that Palace fixture. And then I'm going to go with Danny Ings for Villa away at Watford. I think he'll hit the ground running this weekend.
He absolutely will do, mate. We can all, sit here and hope and pray that Ings does start to score for Villa. And then finally, we'll go with your curveball captain, mate. So take it away.
Yeah, look, I know he's highly owned, so but it's a curveball in the fact I don't think many people are going to have this guy as their captain. I'm going to go Tony. I had a few other players on there, but then I thought push comes to shove, I think Tony, Brentford's first game in the Premier League, he got all those goals in the Championship. I think, we might see him hit the ground running in this fixture, sort of first game of the week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good pick. Arsenal are, known to give away a fair few penalties and, fouls in and around the box as well. So it'll be definitely an interesting one, and one that a lot of people will be keeping their eye on. But that wraps up the first Guru section of the season. We've just got a question now, which I guess we can actually ask you. And we've got a question from Hardcore Ali, and he says, what's the best time to triple captain in the season?
Yeah, I think traditionally it's just wait until those double game weeks, which you normally get in the second half of the season. So yeah, I'd be waiting for a double game week. But then in saying that, like in my history, I've kind of just gone with my gut on a sort of weekend when I think a team's going to kind of hammer the other one. I've done the Aguero v Newcastle stuff before, but look, traditionally I'd just wait till those double game weeks are announced towards the end of the season.
Yeah, we're going to move on swiftly now, and thank you for your time, Guru, after that Aguero comment. But that wraps up the Guru section, so thank you, mate. So as we announced last week, we're super happy to, kick off the season with our partnership with Bonus Bank. If you're not aware, Bonus Bank is a membership website, an app that basically shows you how to make guaranteed profit by, taking advantage of bookmaker promotions. To be clear, it's not gambling and it's not a tipster service, but it is quickly becoming Australia and New Zealand's fastest growing side hustle. Members are making an average of $2,500 profit in their first 60 days of membership. So, if you're over 18 and you're eligible to, what are you doing? Why are you not joining them? And again, it's completely free. But if you do want to go premium with it, make sure you use the code FPL Addicts to receive a 25% discount on your first month's membership. And see the link in our details, and you'll learn how to make your first $70 profit with Bonus Bank. So now that is out of the way as well, again, we're just so happy to be partnered with Bonus Bank for the season. But we'll move on to another new section that we've got for the podcast this season. It is the hot topic section, and we'll have to make it fairly quick because we're a little bit pressed for time. But I'll just go around and sort of ask. We'll start with you, Matt. There's a lot of speculation at the minute around Bruno Fernandes. Are you Bruno or are you Bruno? Is the question.
At the moment, I'm Bruno at the moment, as in yes to Bruno right now.
Yeah, it's a fair call, mate. Ollie, are you much the same?
He loves being on mute. I've
not got much to say. Yeah, keep it succinct. I'm Bruno in.
Yeah, I'm absolutely Bruno in as well. Jack, are you much the same? I'm not going to assume that you're going to differentiate from a yes.
You'll never have to ask me that question, mate. Of course he's in.
Absolutely, and Reedy, maybe the one that will probably be most apprehensive to have him in his team as a Liverpool fan. Are you going to go with Bruno for this season? He's another one that loves to be on mute, isn't he?
Come on, Reedy.
I'm back. Bruno chance that he's not going to be in my team. Basically, he's in.
I think you got muted after that Sigurdsson shout earlier.
Yeah. Quite possibly. And we'll move on to you, Statman Dave, for the last one. Are you going to make it a clean sweep? Bruno Fernandes, yes or no?
Mate, he was my first pick, so absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, he's going to be one of the most owned players this season. I think him and Salah, if they can keep it up, they're definitely going to be the two most owned in the league. But we'll move on to the second one now. And I'll go to you first, Guru, because I know you flagged a fair few. But, a lot of people are quite invested in these 4 million defenders. But, there can actually be a couple of downsides with these sorts of players. So there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of potential risks. So are you sort of going to go heavy with the 4 million defenders, do you think? Or are you sort of a bit apprehensive to sit back?
I think early on, I'll put a few in that I know are going to start before wildcard sort of time. It's a good time to have them. More money for the rest of your squad. You get some cheap starters in some decent teams, and it's good to have a few plans of wildcard early, I think, as well. But yeah, like you said, there is some negatives to that as well, which is low sell-on value down the track, and they'll likely just become squad players as well. So, but yeah, early doors, I'm going to have a few in.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jack, are you much the same? Because I think a lot of people, they're seeing Amati and Samikas, sort of playing, and they're just like, got to get him in my team to, sort of free up the funds to get the premium assets in. So are you much the same?
Yeah, I've got 2 4 million defenders in mind at the minute, but that's purely because I'm trying to squeeze everyone in for their starting 11. But I think if you can get away with a couple of starters like Samikas, I think if he can come in and play a few games and still get some points on the board for you, even if he's on the bench, still think it's a good option to do. But yeah, that starting 11's gone. I've invested in there, but like I think Reedy said earlier, I've gone heavy in there to get as much value in that starting 11 as possible. But I think it's just something to be aware of. Having 1 or 2 players who are going to actually start. So maybe you just go have a think about that, and definitely I will over the next 48 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that wraps up the hot topic section for this podcast. But as the season progresses, there'll be a lot more to talk about and a lot more controversy. So, keep an eye out for the hot topic section this season. So just before we wrap up today, I've got a quick fire question for everyone just off the top of their head. No research needed. We'll start with you, Guru. Who's going to be the top scorer in FPL this season? There we go. That's 3 out of everyone muted tonight.
I think you just keep asking the ones who get muted, mate.
Son this season. Sorry, boys.
Everyone's a bit
Son.
rough.
Son.
Yeah, once Kane goes, I think he's going to have the penalties. So his score's going to rocket.
That's a very fair call, and Kane to take his bonus points as well. So it's going to be the Son show for the season, maybe. But Ollie, you sounded quite surprised by that one. Who are you sort of picking for the top scorer?
I'm going to go with tried and trusted Mohamed Salah. I think he's class, and I think he'll get top scorer again.
Yeah, well, for me, it's pretty similar player in terms of ability. It's Jeff Hendrick. He's just got to be the top scorer for the season.
He's a top enabler, that guy.
You're a joker, mate. You're an absolute joker.
It absolutely has to be him for this season. Jack, are you going with Bruno Fernandes?
Oh, I'm going to go with Salah.
Salah. Reedy, are you going to agree with Salah?
It's got to be Mo, hasn't it? It's got to be.
Yeah, and Statman, is it going to be a fairly clean sweep for Salah?
No, I'm on the Bruno train. I think somebody's got to. That'll be me.
Bruno.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 4 Salahs, 1 Jeff Hendrick, and 1 Bruno Fernandes to wrap up the podcast. So thank you very much for listening and watching. That brings us to the end of the Game Week 1 preview show. We'll be back live Friday the 13th at 9 p.m. Melbourne time and 12 o'clock midday UK time for the FPL Addicts Draft Show with myself, the panel, and a few new faces as well. Should be loads of fun, so feel free to join us there and help us with our picks. Just a reminder that the free mini code is 1KSRYW, as mentioned previously. And for any inquiries about the paid league or Discord channel, head to www.e-sportslive.com.au/FPL Addicts. But until then, good luck with Game Week 1. Take care, stay safe. Goodbye for now.